Right, so two by-elections took place yesterday, two Tory defences, two massive Tory defeats, as the media and the pollsters are telling us. And of course the Tories knew this was on the cards. That's why their weakling leader and our embarrassment of a Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, scuttled off to Israel for polling day. He's toast. But as is often the case, the media headlines and commentary aren't actually telling people the truth of the situation. The implication being that there's been this big, massive shift from the Tories to Labour, who won both seats, despite themselves now being led by a self-declared supporter of war crimes. So what is the story of these by-elections, and what do they actually tell us going forwards? Right, so two by-elections yesterday, Tamworth in Staffordshire and Mid Bedfordshire, both triggered by a pair of Tories whose reputations were in tatters, along with their parties, of course. Yet still, both of these seats were, on the face of it, staunch Tory safe ground. Let's deal with Tamworth first. The incumbent Tory MP there had, of course, been Chris Pincher. Pincher by name, Pincher by nature, who, of course, was found to have been a bit handsy with other men when drunk, and having caused embarrassment at the Carlton Hotel, allegedly groping two men, he was suspended. It subsequently came out that there were another 6 allegations against Pincher for similar, going back a decade. Of course, none of that had stopped Boris Johnson appointing him as a whip, despite knowing about all of that. But when a whip is being accused of abuse, who can you go to complain if you're an MP? That's what the whip is there for, isn't it? Shows what importance Johnson put on such matters, didn't it? Anyway, Pincher was found guilty by the Commons Select Committee on Standards and was suspended for 8 weeks. He appealed that failed, so then he resigned rather than be triggered through a trigger ballot of his constituents, though the resignation wasn't really a resignation, because he got appointed to the office of Steward and Bailiff of the Manor of Northstead, which is just a parliamentary fiddle that means resigning as an MP without overtly saying so, in order to save face, basically. It's really quite pathetic. But anyway, so we come to the by-election. The Tories were in trouble because of their man, and he had gone in shame, so their replacement needed to be squeaky clean, despite the fact this truly is a very safe seat. In 2019, Pincher won the seat with a majority of over 19,000, so they'd have to be in real trouble to lose it, eh? Enter one Andrew Cooper, who it soon came out was one of those people who believed anyone needing more money to feed their kids, but who happened to have a mobile phone, a TV, or bought makeup, for example, should F off. In fact, he was so devoted to this mindset that he even went as far as drawing up a flow chart about it and putting it all over social media. Whoops, now we've seen it. So he was in bother from the beginning too because of that. Labour put up Sarah Edwards, a Sharon Graham staffer at Unite previously, apparently. So nice to know Sharon Graham is so cosy with Keir Starmer these days that there's no problems with her people getting selected to be Labour candidates. Now the media are talking about Edwards winning in terms of swing, because they always talk in terms of swing, don't they? Massive majority overcome, that 19,000 majority the Tories had. A swing to Labour at 23.9% was seismic, huge, based on that measure. The Labour vote was up 22%. The Tory vote was down 25%. It seemed clear that all the Tories went to Labour pretty much, doesn't it? Shame it wasn't true. Back in 2019, when Labour came a distant second, it has to be said, they won 10,908 votes, a respectable but distant 23.7% of the vote. Last night, Sarah Edwards won just 811 more votes than Labour got in 2019. She actually got over 4,600 fewer votes than Labour got in 2017, before the party succeeded in sabotaging Jeremy Corbyn's leadership. Yet those 811 more votes meant Labour ended up winning 45.8% of the vote this time around. Our electoral system is a farce, and the way we measure it is a joke. But how can so few more votes deliver such a massive extra vote share? Of course, the answer is turnout. Turnout in Tamworth yesterday was dire, even by by-election standards. Just 35.9% turnout, which worked out at some 20,000 fewer people voting. Funnily enough, the Tory vote fell from 30,542 in 2019 to just 10,403 last night. So, roughly 20,000 fewer votes then. And that's your answer. Tory voters stayed at home and didn't vote at all, for the most part. But 2/3 of all of them that turned out in 2019 stayed at home. That's why Labour ended up winning. They didn't really increase their vote share in any meaningful way whatsoever, in truth. Their vote simply held up, and the Tories didn't. So in no way is this an endorsement of Starmer at all, but a massive condemnation of the Tories and Sunak still failing to turn things around. In fact, things are clearly getting worse as their voters sit on their hands or vote for Richard Tice's private company masquerading as a party called Reform UK, aka the Rupert Murdoch Party, since all of the leaders seem to work for him on Talk TV. Anyway, so this is the picture reflected in this one. But what about the other by-election? Well, this was the one we thought would never come, wouldn't it? Mid Bedfordshire. Will Nadine Dorries ever formally resign, or will she just keep collecting the pay packet despite not turning up to work and leaving the people of that constituency without representation for over a year? Hers was, to my mind, a deliberate act of sabotage on Sunak, both in the name of her devoted dear Boris, who she still staunchly defended, of course, and the fact her entry into the House of Lords got denied to her, and she stamped her tiny feet over that, stormed off, and had a sulk. Well, finally she acted her age and went, triggering the by-election, finally. The Tories put up the fabulously named Festus Akimbusoye, the first black police and crime commissioner in the UK, son of Nigerian refugees, and by all accounts likeable by Tory standards, though his use of Green Party colours in his electioneering, as so many Tories seem to have adopted lately, did wind me up a little bit. He was up against Alistair Strathern, a London councillor, parachuted in Starmerite, though originally from the area. But with such a high-profile, awful MP as Nadine Dorries, you rightly might have thought the Tories could have been in deep trouble here. But here's the thing. Dorries had a majority of nearly 25,000, massive majority, so that's quite the mountain for Labour to climb. Of course, they did. Again, the media conversation is all about the swing. The Tories down over 28%, Labour's vote up 12.4%, and the Lib Dems up 10.5%, so the Tory collapse very much got split between the other two main parties, both of whom were going around claiming they were the only ones who could win, that they were the tactical vote. And such is the folly of tactical voting, because this could have let the Tories retain. And they very nearly did, actually, because although Labour won and their vote share did increase, their majority is a very modest 1,192. Skin of their teeth stuff, especially when they didn't pick up all of that Tory vote, as the vote share figures imply, because again, this is a misleading measure. Last night, Alistair Strathern won 13,872 votes, which was 156 votes fewer than Labour got in 2019, and 4,000 votes fewer than Labour got in 2017. So let's not pretend they won any Tory votes. They didn't. They even apparently lost Labour ones, albeit only a handful, academic numbers. The Lib Dems vote this time only went up by around 1,000 votes, just for context. So again, what was the turnout here? 44.1% is not bad by normal by-election standards. However, turnout in mid-beds is usually in the 70%, quite high compared to national averages. So 44% turnout is low for them, you would think. It works out as some 24,000 voters not bothering to turn out, and the Tory vote, funnily enough, was down some 26,000. So again, it's a story that the vast majority of Tory voters just stayed at home. Some obviously voted elsewhere, smaller parties, that kind of thing. This is what Starmer's success is built on in these recent by-elections. This is what his success is built on completely. It's built on sand. Never has there been a political leader more lucky and less deserving of becoming Prime Minister than Starmer, and he would appear to be cruising there right now. The only winner is apathy. Now, one caveat I'd say on this is that losing the odd by-election isn't going to change a government. So protesting by not turning out, not voting, as we've seen here, is something a lot of people will feel comfortable doing to send a message to their party that they aren't happy. Warning shots, bloody noses, and all the other analogies you can think of. Come a general election, though, will they be as comfortable to sit things out? I don't know. Turnout is always higher at a general election. I don't think it'll be quite as comfy for Starmer as things appear to be right now. I can't see Starmer doing anything to boost his chances. Every time he opens his mouth, it just puts more people off him. Alternatively, Sunak is toast. He can't turn things around. He failed to get any boost off the back of Tory party conference. He's been a public embarrassment fawning over the occupier Netanyahu out in Israel, and the timing of his Israeli trip smacks of running away from what he knew would be bad results for his party. He's acted increasingly in power as someone seeking to enrich himself, has given carte blanche to hard-right culture wars which appall more and more people, including Tories. He's done nothing right. The Tories are going to lose the next election, and lose it horribly with him in charge. A man nobody chose, not even Tory members, and they are staying at home over it. I'm reminded that the Tory party only got back into power back in 2010 with somebody coming off the back benches in David Cameron. I think if they're to stand a chance of giving Starmer a run for his money, we'll have to see a repeat and get rid of all those tarnished by the last 13 years of Tory rule. Or directly tarnished, I should say. But there's no talent there. No talent whatsoever within the Tory party. They're all self-serving grubs. So whether Sunak goes or not, I'm not sure it's going to make any difference, with a year in reality at best to go before another general election. If the Tories do want to do something about Sunak, though, his 1 year of grace, where he can't be challenged over his leadership, is over in 5 days' time. So will we see some movement then? Well, we'll have to wait and see. Either way, both of these by-elections were the result of Tory voters staying at home and nothing more. And Sarah Edwards and Alistair Strathern have been given mandates to represent these constituencies, despite only actually having 16% and 16.5% of their constituencies' votes, respectively. Of course, Keir Starmer called these results a game changer, but then he's a liar, and he's lying to himself if he really believes that. Thanks for watching. I hope you found the video useful. Please like, share and subscribe if you did. More content out daily. Please do leave a comment and have your say on all of this and join in the conversation. Meanwhile, here's a video recommendation which again shows apathy as the real winner each time, as we saw a similar picture in the other recent by-election up in Scotland, Rutherglen and Hamilton. It's very much a trend, and with more by-elections likely in the none too distant future, it's a picture that is likely to keep on being replicated. And I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.